Afternoon, everyone. Hope you are well. I'd like to welcome everyone. And today's learning is dedicated in memory of Zev ben Shmuel Cohen, Fegabas Mendel Merkinson, Fegabas Shlomo Estra, Hilda Belkin, as well as Leabas Bible, Tzivibas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Shalom ben Yisrael Morris, Eliezer Shalom ben Avram Shmuel Bereth, Tzipere Fegabas Reuven Baruch, Shalom ben Eleli, Ben Abbas Bible, Pumash Shana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Yom Yechiel ben Achavim Moshe Eliezer, Salamalka Bas Binyamin. Wishing each and every one of their respective families long life and only simchas. So today we continue with part 2 of our great Odyssey and journey as we try to work towards becoming slightly better people. See, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are behind us, and now we have to think about, well, it's behind us, but hopefully it's not forgotten. The idea is that we carry with us throughout the year Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That mentality of being better, of improving, of recognizing one's faults, of recognizing when one is made mistakes, and therefore being prepared to have a hard, long look at oneself and say, I can be better. I want to be better. So yesterday we did, by way of introduction to the Orchot tzadikim, we discussed about the fact that we have 5 faculties, and our 5 faculties control everything we say and everything that we do. Okay? And we mentioned yesterday that we would start with a story, a great story about the Maimonides. Now, Maimonides was not only one of the greatest rabbis of his time, but he was also an expert when it came to medicine. He was the physician to the Sultan Saladin, and this was in Egypt. And some of the other ministers were very jealous of Maimonides' privileged position and the fact that the Sultan revered Maimonides. And therefore, there was a discussion over dinner, apparently, that took place, whereby Maimonides said that that human beings are capable of changing their innate natures, whereas animals are not so. And this anti-Semitic minister got up and apparently he said, I'll challenge you. I believe that animals also can change their nature. And so Maimonides accepted the challenge. The gauntlet was thrown down, and listen to what happened. The anti-Semitic minister said that he had trained mice, and these mice were able to behave like human beings. They were refined, they were cultured, they were dressed up as waiters, and they would walk around and serve all the guests. So that is exactly what happened, and everyone's clapping and cheering. What an accomplishment. He's beaten, he's trumped the Maimonides, the great Jewish leader. You know, look how the refined these characters of these mice are. All of a sudden Maimonides went and he brought back a cage, and in this cage he opened it up, took off the lid, and out came a cat. And immediately the cat smelt the mice and started to run after the mice. And immediately these cultured mice that were holding the trays, the serving trays in their hands, dressed up with a tuxedo, all of a sudden they dropped the trays. They forgot their training and the fact that they were meant to be and act and behave like refined waiters, and instead they went back to their old instincts. Says Maimonides, you see, you can't train and change the nature of an animal, whereas with a human being, you can. So let's read some of it inside. That's the story. Among these traits, there are those possessed by a man from the beginning of his creation, same with woman, according to his or her bodily nature. And there are those to which one's nature is inclined, and which he is up to adopt more than others. So there are some that again, remember this, there are some character traits that we are born with. There are some that, in other words, some that we inherit, and some that we take on over the course of time. Okay? And there are those towards which one's nature is inclined. Okay? Again, there are some, let me give an example of what it means to have a nature which is inclined towards a certain characteristic. The Talmud tells us that it's possible for a person to have a violent, right, a violent, outlook and characteristic, right? Somebody may be very placid, meek and mild, and another person may be quite, fired up. And they say that this person should either be a butcher, right? In other words, he's got this violent nature, either should be a butcher or a shochet or something of that ilk. But if they don't, listen to what the Talmud says, if they don't channel that particular energy that they have in a positive direction, then they will become a murderer. They'll use it in the wrong way. So what we are meant to do, and this takes us back to the fundamental idea that I want us all to get into our heads. Midot, which is the word in Hebrew for character traits, means measure. Okay, midah in Hebrew is a measure, right, pal? And therefore, the idea is that we have to use everything in equal measure. A cake can have all different ingredients, and we know that if we put in too much salt, it'll taste bad. If we don't put in salt, it also will taste bad. So it's everything in the right modicum, and therefore, that's the same way it is with everything, right? If we have too much, you may say, well, some characteristics seem to be inherently good, and basically they are. But even the characteristic of chesed, of kindness, right? There is a place for it. If it is misused, then people will just walk over you. There's no boundaries. You're just kindness. You just want everyone to be happy. And therefore, if there are no boundaries, then your kids and those around you will not know where they stand. And therefore, there will not be any limitations. Chesed is without limitation. Kindness without limitations. We need boundaries. We need to have a direction. We need to direct ourselves and our families. And therefore, there is no characteristic, no midah, which doesn't have a place which is good and a place which is bad. Okay, that is the critical thing that we are learning today. Okay, and we are also saying that some people are predisposed to certain characteristics, and other people, because of their environment, will find themselves drawn to certain characteristics and behaving in a certain way. But the critical thing is, what we are saying is, every person can learn and unlearn characteristics. So, for example, we know that kids at a certain stage will learn bad language, okay, bad manners. The same way that they learned it, we don't say, well, that's who you are. That's the sum total of who you are. We say the same way that you learned it, you can unlearn it. In days gone by, it used to be that if you spoke badly, you said a bad word, then you'd get your mouth washed out with soap. I think if you did that now, you would find yourself behind bars. But the idea is that things can be taught and untaught, right? Habits are just a constant flow of activity. And if it can go one way, it can go the other way. And this is a really, really important concept, because we're not, most of us that are on here are not spring chickens. We're not, 14, 15 years old, where we're still learning and open to fresh ideas, where, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That is only an old dog, not human beings. Human beings, we can learn and must learn to adapt and to behave in a different fashion. Otherwise, we are just repeating mistakes. And otherwise, there is a real danger that all we are doing, in fact, is behaving and living the same day after day. Okay? Nothing could be more boring. What's the point in living every day if it is the same? Okay? If you think about a person on a life support machine, why is it that we say that, some people believe that, they've got no quality of life, they should come off that machine? What's the point of them staying on that machine, just staring into space? There's no quality. They're not doing anything. Well, I could say the same about so many people that are not physically on a life support machine, but their lives and the way they behave is very much resonates with the life support machine. In other words, day after day, we see the same pattern of behavior, the same mistakes year after year, the same apologies of forgiveness. And therefore, as Estelle says, life is a learning process. And therefore, there shouldn't be areas, if somebody criticizes us, right, we should first and listen very carefully. Not become defensive, but to say, okay, I hear that. Now let me evaluate and see, is that true or not? How true is it? How untrue is it? Why do they say it to me and not to somebody else? Right? We shouldn't be dismissive of criticisms. These are all part of the necessary changes that we're speaking about in terms of improving ourselves and becoming a slightly more refined, more sensitive, more considerate person. Okay, we're going to stop there for today. There's more to say, and we'll continue, please God, tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, let's get back to Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even when I walk in the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Memorial prayer. Adon Olamim Zacho Es Nishmois Lebas Bibos Lebas Mordechai Avram Ben David Slavin Shomen Yisrael Morris Elias Shalom Ben Avram Shmuel Beres Sipero Fegela Bas Reuven Baruch Shalom Elim Ben Abbas Baruch Baruch Moshe Nabash Yaakov Shmuel Yirmiyahu Yechia Ben Achav Moshe Eliezer Sarah Malka Pas Binyamin and Zev Ben Shmuel Cohen Vega Bas Mendel Markinson Vega Bas Shlomo Eistreich Elder Belkin Shalach Uli Lamon Begad Eilen Teimenu Chasam Lachem Velarachamim Yasirem Veseita Kanavav Liolamim V'Tzavas Chaim Nishmasam Adonai Nachlasam V'Yanucha Mishkavam V'Shalom and Amar Amen. If you want to know why my complexion has changed, it's because the sun has come out. Yes, there is sun in Woodside Park, especially if you're on the south side. So there we go. We have the sun. Okay, I'm going to have to go out to get my vitamin. What is it? Vitamin D? Peter, is that right? Anyways, Misha Berach Havasein Ramam Mitzvah Yaakov Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yivarech Rebbe Zacholim Bavo Shana Mispalim Bavo Ram Tzozek Kadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Aleihem Lach Melafosam Vishlach Lem Fushlim and Shmaim V'Chol Leveim B'Soch Shachol Yisrael Refus HaNefesh Refus HaKadosh Makarev Amar Amen. Wishing everyone well. Have a great day. Keep safe, keep well. We'll see you tomorrow. All the very best. Take care.